The password.
All right, I'm gonna call you out.
I'll get you paper.
All right, I'll call you out.
It's not quite.
I need to turn it off and turn it back on. This iPad is probably like first gen.
All right, are you ready, Miss Hogan? Yeah.
That's why I grabbed my phone.
We're all plugged in.
Recording in progress.
All right, good evening, everyone. It is 7 p.m. on Monday, December 4th, 2023. Please ensure your cell phones are silenced and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And at this time, we are going to swear in. I think there's some confusion on what exactly is occurring this evening. The three folks that are being sworn in this evening, Councilmember Hall, Councilmember Dowdy, and Councilmember-elect for now, Mr. Freimark, are all taking positions that were appointed to them. So as soon as the election was certified, they then became official council members. So as myself and Ms. Holland and Mr. Smith, those positions will not take over until January 1st. So at this time, I'm going to start with. Oh, I left my papers down already. I'll start with you. Your position's right
We don't need a picture.
Yeah, we're getting pictures. We're getting pictures.
Please, I did not know this was happening tonight.
You didn't know this happened?
No.
Oh, I haven't put a sweater and a collar on for
I
you.
have glasses on. No, we don't need pictures.
All right. Where are we here? Here we go. Here we go. Number 3. Make sure I have these in order. There we go. All right. Go ahead and raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Melissa Dowdy,
I, Melissa Dowdy,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I am a citizen of the United States
that I am a citizen of the United States
and state of Washington,
and state of Washington.
and I am legally qualified
I am legally qualified
to assume the office of City Council,
to assume the office of City Council,
position number 3,
position number 3,
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and laws of the United States,
and laws of the United States,
the state of Washington,
the state of Washington,
and the city of Woodland,
and the city of Woodland,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially discharge
and impartially discharge
the duties of this office
the duties of this office
to the best of my abilities.
to the best of my abilities.
Congratulations.
Thank
Welcome,
you.
welcome back after that last minute. All right, Mr. Freimark. As everyone noticed, Mr. Freimark started down in the gallery this evening. Ms. Dowdy and Mr. Hall have already been appointed by council, and now they're taking their official role, but Mr. Freimark had to start down here before he joins us up on the dais. So please raise your right hand for me and repeat after me. I, Douglas Freimark Sr.,
I, Douglas Freimark Sr.,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I am a citizen of the United States
I am a citizen of the United States
and a state of state of Washington,
and the state of Washington,
and that I am legally qualified to assume the office
and that I am legally qualified to assume that office
of City Council,
of City Council,
position number 4,
position number 4,
and that I will support the Constitution
and I will support the Constitution
and laws of the United States,
and laws of the United States,
the state of Washington,
the state of Washington,
and the city of Woodland,
and the city of Woodland,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially discharge
and impartially discharge
the duties of this office
the duties of this office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations and welcome. Thank you very much. Where's you didn't want a picture tonight?
No, not tonight.
Are you ready? Here we go. All right, and I'll have you take your seat. You can pop around that way, it might be easier. Mr. Hall. Good evening. I'll have you raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Terry L. Hall,
I, Terry L. Hall,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I am a citizen of the United States
that I am a citizen of the United States
and state of Washington,
state of Washington,
that I am legally qualified
that I am legally qualified
to assume the office of
to assume the office of
City Council,
City Council,
position number 6,
position number 6,
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and laws of the United States,
and laws of the United States,
the state of Washington,
the state of Washington,
and the city of Woodland,
and the city of Woodland,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially discharge
and impartially discharge
the duties of this office
the duties of this office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Thank you very much. You want a picture, Terry? Terry, come get a picture. I put a collar on tonight. Come on now.
Again,
All right. Thank you very much. All right. And with that, Mrs. Hogan, the birthday woman of the hour, happy birthday. Yes. Oh, you're welcome. Will you please take the roll? She's very pleased with me right now, I can tell.
Councilmember Rounds,
Here.
Councilmember Smith,
Here.
Councilmember Burke,
Here.
Councilmember Holland,
Present.
Councilmember Dowdy,
Here.
Councilmember Hall,
here.
Councilmember Freimark.
Here.
All right, everyone here is accounted for. Please ensure that your microphones are on when speaking this evening and pull them close so our folks at home can hear. And with that, we're going to move to citizen communications for items not on the agenda. And first up, we have Mr. Rick Pettit. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm just here to give you my current total claim as of 11/30/23. It's now up to $91,966.36. And in the words of President Ronald Reagan, the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help." Thank you.
Thank you. Steve.
First of all, I got 2 apologies to make, one to Melissa and one to JJ. JJ, I'm sorry about what I said about you, calling you Sleepy JJ. It was inappropriate. I didn't realize you were sick. Melissa, didn't mean to call you a tyrant the way I did. Mr. Hall, you blatantly lied last city council meeting. Blatantly lied. I called you out on it and I left the meeting willingly so that our little tyrant mayor right here would keep the meeting going. You understand you blatantly lied, right?
Mr.
Yes or
Steve,
no?
Mr. Steve, I'll have you address me. Council will not address the community at this
Okay,
point.
that's great. Mr. Will Finn, you understand that Terry Hall blatantly lied, right?
I'm not sure what you're referring to, sir.
I'm referring to when you slammed the gavel and said you stopped the meeting, when he said you can order marijuana online. It's on record in the last meeting. And I called him a liar and I saw myself out.
And we appreciate that, thank you.
And you know that was a blatant lie, right?
I can't
You
confirm or
you
deny
think-
that.
you
I've
think-
never looked, sir,
Really?
do you want me to answer the question?
I would love to hear this.
I have never looked
70 to
on,
30, I'd love to hear this.
would you like your answer now?
Waiting.
Okay. I have never ordered or been a patron to order something of that nature to be delivered, so I cannot say yes or no to your question.
Okay, so when I called him a liar, which he was blatantly lying, you cannot send marijuana through the mail. It's a federal thing. You're going to play that dumb? 70 to 30 says a lot. I'll move over to Deanna right here. Hey, Deanna, the lie.
Mrs. Holland will not be responding to you.
That's fine. She can listen to what I have to say. The middle finger you gave me, Mrs. Hall, are you listening?
And it's Mrs. Holland, sir.
Oh, I don't care what she's another tyrant, in my opinion. Mayor, she's another tyrant. She gave me the bird when I got here, and I got a picture of it. So she's another lying tyrant. I'm glad she has lost her seat.
Me too, thank you.
Mrs. Holland.
Oh, what? So I would like to know, Mr. Mayor, how is it okay that public servants are allowed to flip us off? Public servants are allowed to lie. How is that okay under your administration?
Mr. Steve, I do not control elected officials. I run this meeting, and I run the daily operations of the city. That
But
is
you
my
can
role.
slam the gavel when I call someone a liar.
We have rules
And I did
and
promise
procedures
the
in
police
place.
chief back there that I'd behave, so.
Okay. And we appreciate that. There are rules and procedures in place to shout from the gallery
But there
during an
should be-
active conversation
And I
is
wasn't
inappropriate
shouting
and out
from
of
the
line.
gallery. Now, you heard my story when I left.
You shouted twice from the gallery. We can roll the tape if you'd like. You
Oh, I
are
would-
taping right now.
I would also
You
love
yelled
to roll
liar
the tape where
twice.
he's lying, and do you want me to show you the picture where she
No.
flipped me off before this?
What
meeting
other comments
started?
do you have for the council this evening, Mr. Steve?
How much time do I have left?
You have about 2 minutes and 4 seconds.
I would like you to explain to me how it's okay for City Council Holland to give me the middle finger before the meeting. Isn't she a public servant?
That is, she is an elected official, just as like everyone else up this
Is that a
dais.
public servant, yes or no?
Is Mrs. Holland a
Yes or
public?
no?
She is an elected official for the city of Woodland.
And that's a public servant.
If that's how you deem it, then yes.
Public servant? All right, I'm glad the election went the way it did. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. All right, Whitney Rad.
Oh, yeah, it's gonna be nice.
Good evening.
Good evening. I have to say, I'm pretty disappointed in the behavior at the council meeting that I saw 2 weeks ago. I'm disappointed in watching a mayor speak to a council member, telling him not to speak to him again, that he was done with him. Telling another council member that we're not going to allow the citizen input for the people who are online because you're choosing not to, and that the new mayor can do whatever he wants. When that's been the standard for 3 years. I've watched for years people say, get involved, come to the meetings. You can do it on Zoom. You can speak if you're on Zoom. And then to be dismissed because you just don't feel like it that day. There's rules of decorum. There's rules that the mayor can be asked to step down himself for the meeting, and the mayor pro tem can take over the meeting if they're behaving that way. We expect better of our leaders. And if I can't be up here swearing at you, I expect nobody else to be swearing, or giving the middle finger is also swearing at somebody else. As well, for years, I can't even remember how long, we've been going over the whole thing with FCS, and that we had to front load all these projects because they needed to be done now. You guys made decisions for the citizens, and they weren't implemented on the choice of the mayor, which is not his job. It is not allowed for him to do that. If he didn't want to do that, he had 10 days to respond to the increase that was supposed to happen, that you guys all deemed necessary to go forward. And instead of people just saying, we screwed up, we missed it, we've got people who are leaving office saying, I'm going to take it, so then nobody else has to take it. You can't go back and change something and say, well, I made the decision, not someone else, when it's not your decision to make. It is a council decision. It is not a mayor decision what the water rates are. And you guys chose, saying that you chose to do it for what was best for the citizens of Woodland. And it's hard. It's hard to make those decisions and then to unilaterally have that be retracted by someone that's not in the position to do so. There's not apologies given. And why can no one just take the responsibility and say, I screwed up, I missed this, and go from there? At what point have we taken away the accountability? People up here gave people 6-month severance packages because you're worried about somebody coming in and taking away their positions, and yet you have a mayor who sat there and is trying to take the cover and take the blame before he goes out, because now I'm sure he's worried that that would be used against them, because that makes sense. But up here, you guys said they have done so well, they deserve this. They dismissed what you as a council said. And I'm not saying that anybody should lose their jobs, but people can at least take responsibility. If your doctor makes a mistake, do you want him just to have the hospital administrator say, well, we're just going to cover for him? Or do you want them to say, we screwed up, and make account for it? If you guys are held to the standard by the public saying, we want accountability. And it's not right that some people have to take accountability and other people don't. And just for once, I would like people to say, I was wrong. And here's how we fix it. Because I've also listened for a number of years saying, oh, 7% was just a chosen number, which that wasn't true either. But now we're just arbitrarily picking a number for where we're going forward now. Because 5.5% is not in the FCS study. The next rate increase that was supposed to happen is 6.4%. So who's just making up the numbers?
30 seconds, Ms. Rep.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Ms. Coleman. You're up. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm here representing Downtown Woodland Revitalization, and we would like to offer something to the Woodland Action Center. So, Deanna, would you mind coming up here? And,
I will come down there.
or come down here? Yeah, thank you. So it was decided at one of our last meetings, if you want to come around here, if you don't mind, one of our last meetings that as part of Downtown Woodland Revitalization, that we wanted to offer vouchers for trees for to give to Woodland Action Center, so that some of the people who are needy can go to the Scouts tree lot at the Woodland Walmart and obtain $40 vouchers for trees. So that's from the Woodland Action. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. This is my sticky note.
Thank you very much. And moving on to items on the agenda, Mr. Hassig. Mr. Chuck, how are you?
Good. How are you, Mr. Mayor?
Doing all right.
I will be
You're
quick.
here. Are you here as an impromptu? Because I don't see anything on here.
I'm here with regards to the budget.
Okay. Oh, gotcha.
As a
Okay. The actual budget
representative-
itself. Gotcha.
Treasurer of the chamber. So I'll be really quick. I just wanted to say thank you to the committee for the recommendation and to the council. I just wanted to point out a couple things. Our request, you'll note, is exactly the same as it was in the prior year, and it was in the prior year from that. That is even though we've been faced with significantly increased labor costs due to the state's increases in minimum wage and whatnot. And so the chamber's just been funding that deficit for the last 2 years. So, and we'll probably continue to fund that. The last thing I wanted to say is if you have any questions at all, feel free to contact me or Carrie, and we'll spend whatever time the chamber would, or the council would like to have us spend with them to go through the budget, go through our request, et cetera. So that's all I have.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you
you.
coming out tonight. Mr. Boyce, when is that actually? So it's in the budget now, but when is the action item for that to come back forward? Or is it, or consent item, sorry?
So So it's part of the overall budget, the 2024 budget. So we have the first reading tonight, the second reading scheduled for the 18th. Usually after that point, we have the contracts set up for the entities that receive the funds.
Okay.
That
So
usually
it'll be
happens
early next year?
Yeah,
when those will
first,
come forward.
second meeting in January.
All right. I guess that's why I was confused. Chuck, is that I didn't see it on there. Oh.
I just hope, I go where I'm told to go when I'm told to go.
All right. And you were told to go. All right. Thank you. Mr. Johnson.
Check. Oh, this works perfect. Okay. So first thing, I want to say that it's clear that we do have a community that care. You know, we do care about each other here. And the second thing is that I do listen to you guys. I try to pay attention to what you say. Maybe you saw a video of mine that I've been putting up this year. Maybe I just look like a crazy person, which is cool. That's what this is for. That's by design. Don't worry about it. I'm here to talk about two things, and I'm just going to be quick. The first is action item K, but it's mostly the water rate increases. I'm not here to plead poverty or say that I'm so poor I, definitely don't need it. It's bad form. By your own admission in your own forms, they're 2 years out of date. By your own admission here tonight, a whole new set of city councilmen and a new mayor are going to be stepping into January. And why do you think that is? We had an election. We took a survey of the town to see what they think our leaders should be. They decided we should have different leadership. A big issue was about the water rates. I'm not here to say they shouldn't be increased. I don't know the books. That's not my job. But I think as a sign of courtesy to people who say they care about the city, you should respect the wishes of the city and at least table it to January. I mean, it might make sense. I'm not saying it doesn't. But to fix in a 3-year rate increase at the 11th hour before you leave, after you've been voted out, seems like a petty move where in January when the rates do go up, you can go to your town, sir, your friends or your church and say, oh, see that new city council? Already the water bill's gone up. Good job for them. And hope that the person you're talking to doesn't know that you did it here tonight. The second is on the weed. I want to be clear. I printed out, and I brought it to Mr. Goddard, the original Planning Commission proposal, 3-1. That was for it to zone for C2 residential, and I think that's what you guys should sign. I'm a teetotaler. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I have a hard time taking aspirin. I don't even like taking a prescription drug. But I do listen to you guys. Monty, I listened to you when you said that your inbox is full of both sides of the issue. It's a tough call. Melissa, I listened to you and you said we should try to do our best to represent the town. So I do get that maybe using a general election as a temperature check of what people want isn't the best tool, but it's not a bad tool. And Terry, I listened to you when you say that it's our job to steward the town. We are the mothers and fathers of Woodland, and it's our charge to keep us safe. And Will, I listened to you when you stood up in front of a podium in the whole town and said that you care about the deaths caused by impaired drivers, which means you care that 65% of those deaths are caused by alcohol. 65% of all automotive deaths are alcohol related. 1 out of 4 kids who die in an alcohol related car crash. That's an automotive deaths. 50% of homicides are alcohol related. 70% of domestic violence cases have an alcohol involvement. You guys have been in power for about a decade. At no point have you had the moral wherewithal or the courage to make this a dry town. You could have done that. And then your stance on weed, I'd at least listen to it. It's a position at that point. But when you look in front of the town, you go, I care when people die except from booze. It makes you look like a hypocrite. When you say, I don't want my kids to see it, well, unless it's a fifth of vodka at the Safeway, or the bar, 3 gas stations, and a liquor store we have to drive past to get up Lewis River Road. That's okay by me. I have a real problem with marijuana, but whatever reason it is, doesn't apply and this disintegrates as soon as alcohol enters the conversation. Look, the reality is you're right. A middle schooler came to school high because he got drugs from a black market dealer, because John was closed when that happened. The reason a middle schooler was able to buy on a black market is because when you closed John's store, you created a black market. That person, whoever it was, doesn't have the scruples that John has. John, you gonna sell weed to kids? Oh, wow, look at that. But somebody in town's willing to. John, are you gonna sell meth, coke, heroin, PCP, fentanyl? But this other person might. Now, obviously, you're okay with the black market as long as you don't have to look at it, right, Terry? As long as you don't have to see the weed store. Let the man open his store. You know it's not bad. And you don't even have to take my word for it. You could listen to the American Constitution and American history. We prohibited alcohol as an amendment to the Constitution because everyone in the country agreed that it was damaging to families. And then we unprohibited it because we realized the black market that making it illegal created made our nation worse. And now it's regulated, and now we have consequences, and now we have police. As someone who comes from a home riddled with substances, who doesn't use them, all I can tell you is that my decision to smoke or not smoke comes solely from watching people around me and what it does to them. And as far as weeds goes, by the numbers, it's one of the safer things you can put in. And I know you don't have concern for what it does to families, because when a councilman sat in that seat and told you that alcohol destroyed his, you had a decade to do something about it. You never did. Lastly, I just again want to say, I know we care. I know you care. I don't want you to feel like I'm attacking you, because that's what a lot of people are doing. But I want you to take the time to listen to what the town's saying. And if you do have a strong conviction against marijuana, take the time to do the research. Thanks.
Thanks, sir. Mr. Deinhardt.
Thanks. So I am assuming we're not suspending order 1498, so I got to cover everything here in my 5-minute piece. So I'll touch on the budget piece here. I really struggle with the budget that's been put together. I've attended the budget shops. I've attended, all of the meetings on this, and let me touch on a few things that really make me nervous on the budget that's been put there, and I think that kind of needs to be scratched a little. I don't know why we're not putting any money towards lowering the water rates as far as putting towards water. So we found $300,000, and that's one of the line items I'll talk about here, $300,000 to put to a civic center. But we can't find a couple $100,000 to put towards water infrastructure to reduce rates. Transportation impact fees, account 353 are budgeted at $95,000. So order 1542 was signed on November 2023, with transportation impact fees were right around $8,200. So they were more than $8,000. So $95,000 divided by 8 is what we're going to build 11.5 houses. We've got 195 lots that are ready to go. I think we'll have more than 11 houses. I mean, when I asked the question of how those 95,000 was done, it's an approximation. I think you could get a little more scientific and say, hey, we're going to budget for 20 houses, 30 houses, put in exactly times the rate, and we would know exactly what it is. And then later on, as the year goes on, we would say, hey, we're over under budget. We assumed 20 houses, but we only had 15 houses. The Minol contract. Again, lots of discussion been going around that. There's $107,000 budgeted, $57,500 in 402, 403, 404. Somewhere in account 401, professional services, we got $50,000 buried. The contract, if you look at the one you all looked at last council meeting, is $10,040 per month. 10,000 times 12 is $120,000. We're right off the get-go low on that. Let's go to water sales, account 401. We've got $2.7 million there. I'd like to know how that was calculated. There's a rate increase here. There was a rate increase from May that you all voted for. The mayor, he sent me an email today that he unilaterally on his own decided not to implement it. But again, the $2.7 million, what rate is calculated to get to $2.7 million in revenue? Salaries. So if I look straight across the whole budget for salaries, it's an increase of 11%. So then when I take in consideration for the police department, their signed contract that they just did, the increased wages that we approved, you all did, for our represented and non-represented, I take all of those out, it's still at a 5%. Wages are still going up 5%, even when I inflate it for all their wage increases. So again, why do we have an extra, $400,000 or $500,000 for wages? The Civic Center, I brought that up. There's $300,000 budget, $10,000 in there for operating expenses. No revenue. Are we assuming? I mean, again, this was a brilliant idea that people passed on that Civic Center. Are we assuming there's not going to be any tenants there all year long? No revenue. The police budget. So there was a levy lid that we as residents, citizens passed. The spend in 2022 was 2.4 million. Through June, it's 1.35 million. If I double it, it's 2.7. I know that we're adding an additional position, but where are we at on the levy lid? Are we actually spending those levy lid dollars? When we say a $3 million budget, what is our dollars that we had prior to that levy lid? Are we being considerate of our residents who want to spend money on the police department? The food carts, we've been asking about the food carts. Last month, there was in the vouchers, $20,000 electrical and some other work. Again, nobody will tell us how much they're paying for rent down there. They're using our electricity. There's a lot of things that are going on that are shady down there. Nobody is giving us any information. Are we putting revenue in there? So again, I mean, these are just a couple of the items. I have a whole laundry list, but I have 5 minutes to go.
30 seconds.
Oh, here we go. Let me pick up the pace. Marijuana retail zoning. Again, I think our residents want all to have a say. It's not what Terry wants, it's not what I want, it's not what JJ wants, it's what our community wants. For less than $5,000, you can put this on the ballot in February. There is multiple levies going on. I've talked to the elections. It's less than $5 grand. You could ask 2 questions. Do you want zoning in C2? Do you want zoning in, I1? Again, let the citizens decide what is best for them. Water rates tonight. That's my next item. So arbitrarily 5.6%. Where does that tie into the study? Deanna, for the last 12 months, has been talking about prior councils, arbitrarily was 7%. Well, all of a sudden tonight, 5.6 has been pulled out. I have an email from the mayor here who says that the current projects are based on current rates. If that's the case, we don't need to raise water rates 5.6%. I have the email directly from him. I'm probably at my 5 minutes.
Mr. Deinhardt. I think you misunderstand how that works.
I will happily read the email to.
I'm saying I think you misunderstand how the rates work. The rates are those loans are based on current rates and future increases that are what the utility rate study.
That's not what your email says to me.
Okay, well you can read between the lines then. And with that, we've come to the agenda itself.
Make a motion to pull action item H to the first meeting in January when the new mayor and council is on board.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Rounds to approve the agenda with the exception of action item H, ordinance number 1548, moving to January 2nd, and seconded by Councilmember Hall. Mrs. Hogan?
Councilmember Smith.
No.
Councilmember Burke. Councilmember Holland.
No.
Councilmember Dowdy.
No.
Councilmember Hall.
Aye.
Councilmember Frymark.
No.
Councilmember Rounds.
Aye.
All right, the noes have it 4-3. We do not have an approved agenda at this time.
Motion to approve agenda as written.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Smith, seconded by Councilmember Holland. Mrs. Hogan, you please take the roll.
Councilmember Frymark.
Aye.
Councilmember Hall.
Aye.
Councilmember Dowdy.
Aye.
Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
Councilmember Burke.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds.
Aye.
The ayes have it. The time is now 7:34. We are moving into a public hearing regarding the 2024 budget. At this time, I have no one signed up. Is there anyone in the gallery to speak to the budget this evening? Mr. Deinhardt.
as I said in my last 5 minutes, I think there's just a lot of errors in there. There's a lot of details that are just missing. It seems like to me, we just took some peanut butter, spread it across and said, hey, here's our budget. When you get down to it and start asking those questions, I would look at all 7 of you and say, could you answer any of those questions? Are you aware of any of that information? Or is it just information that isn't relevant to us?
Thank you. Anyone else? The time is now 7:35. We are out of a public hearing. Moving on to reports of City Council. Mr. Hall.
Yeah, at the last meeting, I did say that you can order marijuana online and have it delivered to your home. After the meeting, I went and researched that, and while that's true in many states, it's not true in Washington, so I need to retract that.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Mrs. Rounds.
I rang the bell for Salvation Army for Rotary, I think on the coldest day that we've had this year. And it was very cold out there, but we did a good job. So anybody that is looking to donate time to ring the bell, please get in touch with me. We're able to send kids from Woodland to Camp Arnold, which is a Salvation Army camp. And for any monies, we always collect the money and then we send it to Salvation Army. So anybody willing to do that, get in touch with me.
All right, thank you. Mr. Smith.
I attended the tree lighting, and it went pretty well. A couple of the little issues that people were complaining about, I spoke to Tracy about, and she was fully aware of those issues. It sounds like some changes next year regarding closing the street down. I think it is growing more significantly than anticipated, so I know there was a lot of complaints about the road being closed and not being closed, or not being, about it being open. So I think next year, Ms. Coleman is saying it will be closed. So anybody who was there that night, it will be different next year. So, but it was a good event otherwise. Thank you. You guys did a good job.
Mrs. Dowdy.
I just want to say that all the new street lights that have started going in down Lake Shore towards Horseshoe look really beautiful with the wreaths and stuff. So if you haven't seen them, go check them out. And downtown looks amazing, all lit up with all the Christmas decorations. So the tree looks beautiful as well. So it was really nice to start seeing our town look so festive.
Yes, thank you. Mrs. Rounds.
We were in Longview Saturday. I didn't get to attend the tree lighting, but they were having a Christmas parade with a lot of vehicles decorated and the whole bit. So it would be kind of nice if we started a Christmas parade.
They do one in Lewis County as well, like a
Yes,
tractor parade.
yes,
Sort, yeah.
and
They do one.
so I was thinking that would be nice for us to have in accordance with that.
Privately, yeah.
Ms. Coleman.
So it's funny that you say that, because that is a plan for next year. We actually, we are talking to the side-by companies, and that they do the side-by parade. I think they're doing it December 20th this year downtown. We're going to coordinate that with them next year to have that when we close off the street, so they can have the parade, lighted parade, and then we'll have Santa Claus coming at the end, kind of like, think of a Macy's Day Parade, but with side-bys.
Okay.
So we've talked about that and having them all decorated. Yep, good idea.
Thanks. All right.
Say one more thing.
Oh, yes, Mr. Smith.
Ms. Rounds, you could sign me up for the bell ringing. My wife was asking me about it, so.
Oh, okay.
I will commit.
I'll let you know what times are
Okay.
available.
Okay. If anybody else out here, raise your hand. Anybody? Don't all at once. Come on.
Mrs. Holland. Are you sure? Go ahead, Mrs. Holland.
So, apologies. Generally, when people wearing creepy Halloween masks pop up in front of a tiny window where we're having a meeting, waving a phone in my, sorry, I was spooked, and my immediate response is to throw the finger. So apologies if that offended anybody. I'm not usually approached by people in Halloween masks in council chambers, but
Thank you, Ms. Holland. And with that, we're moving on to Public Safety Committee meeting this evening. Is that you, Mr. Burke?
Public safety meeting is today. We have a full slate of officers. One is going to the academy January 22nd. We'll be in there for training. Otherwise, that's all I got.
All right, thank you, Mr. Burke.
oh,
Mrs. Holland. Oh,
there's a whole bunch of stuff. Sorry.
You can give me some.
I did too.
Whoops.
And moving on to Public Works, Mrs. Holland.
I'm just combobulated. Tracy, do you want to go? I can't find my thingy. Hold on. I'm still spooked, so hold on.
You can run hers if you need it.
Okay, I got it.
Stand down, Ms. Coleman.
So, we met at 5:37. Our newest member is Councilmember Freimer. We got to hear about all the good things happening in all the public works things. So some of the highlights, filter restoration project is out to bid. We should have something back by the end of the month. The 1.5 million gallon reservoir is out to bid. There were no water quality complaints this month brought to Public Works. So again, if you post water quality concerns on the interwebs, Ms. Coleman isn't there. So you have to send emails to Public Works so that they are aware and then they can address the issues. They had 25 rereads this month. Or I guess that would be last month for November, since that's what this is. They are restarting their hydrant testing this winter. Back to freezing the grease. The wastewater treatment plant can't handle grease in the lines, so please don't pour grease down your drains. We have a part-time water treatment operator 2 as a backup person until we get a permanent full-time person. Let's see. What else? Oh, biosolids storage tank. That's expected to go out to bid in January. Shop storage garage for backup equipment is expected to go out to bid in January. There were some air leaks discovered from the pad blower airline to the aerobic digester under the asphalt. So Public Works crews started repair work November 2nd. The project was nearly complete as of mid last month, and they're still waiting for the right weather to lay new asphalt. Street sweeping, again, we borrow that service from the county, so that should start probably this week, hopefully. They've went through a pallet of cold mix. So when you report a pothole on the city website, they go out and they fill those potholes, and that's where all that cold mix goes. If you were downtown in the last several days, you will notice that the decorative street lights are up at Lakeshore. And there's wreaths hanging off of those. Only 5 are up. They're still waiting for a handful of them to be delivered. There was a nice turnout for the Christmas tree lighting, as mentioned. The food trucks were down there, lots of people. Overwhelming response, so that's really good to know that Woodlanders are excited to come down and be part of the tree lighting. Downtown, if you leave here tonight, drive downtown, so you can check out all of the pretty decorations. So it looks very festive. Let's see. Oh, we're moving into the ADA transition plan. The plan's been reviewed. Gibbs and Olson is updating. Should have for adoption in January. And let's see. Oh, here's the most exciting part. So, Ms. Coleman has just received word today, I believe, that she has received another $632,000 grant that has about a $70,000 match, so that she can begin working on Gun Club, North Pekin, and South Pekin roads. So what that means is only $70,000 of Woodland taxpayer dollars.
It's only
are
63, actually.
Yeah, well,
Isn't it 63?
well, she's budgeting for 70,
Oh,
just in
okay.
case.
So,
Just in
so
case.
a little
Well, oh, right.
clarification. So we applied for a $600,000 grant for Gun Club for the additional sidewalk and stormwater. That's been applied for on November 30th. And then we received $632,000 for South Pekin Road repair,
That's right.
which has a $70,000 match. So there's two different items there.
Anything.
That's
I
right.
just want to make sure we're clear. on
Yes.
Exactly what it's for.
Super exciting though,
It
right?
is. I think that's probably the worst, one of the worst roads in the entire city. Will finally be done next year, correct?
And that's the amazing stuff that Ms. Coleman, our Public Works Director, oversees. And as a Woodlander, I just want to say, I totally appreciate the fact that you capitalize on our tax dollars to fix things that nobody had been fixing for decades. And we adjourned at 6:45.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Holland. Mrs. Rounds, you have a question?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask Ms. Coleman, I've seen a lot of comments on Facebook about people's water bill being the same every month, the last few months. Am I true? Because I did mention that if they're on a tier, it could easily be the same amount every month. It's not, they're thinking that the reader meter is not reading it and whatnot, so I just wanted to make that clear.
If they're a low water user, it's probably pretty common for somebody to have the same water bill every month if they don't have any change in their home, especially if it's a 1 or 2 person home, household income. But if it's more users, or if you're in a higher tier, especially if you're fluctuating between a tier 3 or 2-4, you will definitely see a variancy. But if anybody ever has a concern, all you have to do is pick up the phone and call, and then we can just review the bill. It's not that hard to do. It's very simple. So we actually look at if you look at your bill each month, it shows your meter read on there. So if you see that the read says the same, then there's a problem. But if it read the same, it would be 0 usage. So you wouldn't be charged anything, right, except for the monthly rate. So there's a very good reason that it can be the same if you're a low water user, yes.
Yeah, I brought that up a couple months ago, and I went, same thing, mine was staying the same, it was different ratings, but in the same tier.
Yeah.
But we looked at it and said, yep, that's fine.
I write it out.
All right. Thank you. And thank you, Mrs. Holland. Moving on to consent items.
Motion to approve consent items.
Moved by Councilmember Smith, seconded by Councilmember Hall. Mrs. Hogan, please take the roll.
Councilmember Rounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Frymark, Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Dowdy,
Aye.
Councilmember Holland,
Aye.
Councilmember Burke, Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
The ayes have it, and I just realized that I skipped Mr. Boyce. I apologize. I jumped down. I was preparing my notes here for that. I apologize. Mr. Boyce.
Sure. The only thing I wanted to mention is, so you have the first reading of the final budget tonight, second reading scheduled for the 18th. We don't have a workshop scheduled for next week unless City Council requests it, so I just wanted to make sure that was out there and clear. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Boyce. I apologize for skipping over you. And with that, Mr. Goddard.
So I don't have anything to add tonight except for item D, in which case we have a new staff member who's here to introduce themselves after the consent agenda is done.
It's time now. It's time now to introduce her. Sorry.
Congratulations.
Yeah. And here she comes. Welcome. Good evening.
Hello. Yeah, so I am Maylene Garcia DeBoard. I'm the new associate planner. I'm coming from Island County, just moved to the area and really excited to be here. Have a lot to learn, so.
Thank you. Thank you for choosing Woodland. We appreciate you very much, and Travis is extremely busy. So hopefully you'll learn a lot and get to see some new stuff being here in Woodland. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you for being
Welcome.
here. Moving on to action items. Action item F, ordinance number 1550, adopting the budget for 2024 and providing the appropriation of funds into such accounts. First reading.
Motion to approve action item F.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Smith, seconded by Councilmember Rounds. Councilmember Smith.
This is the first reading, and I understand there's people who would like to see some changes, and I'm sure we will see some changes after the first of the year. Once go through it and see what you want to do, you'll bring some budget amendments to us.
Councilmember Rounds.
Same.
Further discussion? Mrs. Holland.
Just to clarify, Mr. Boyce, do you want to explain what happens if you don't pass a budget?
Well, if council doesn't fully adopt the ordinance before December 31st, basically the city it shuts down. It can spend no funds until the budget's adopted.
Thank you.
Mr. Smith.
I've heard questions about the police position that's on there. Again, if the police position is not going to be hired, I would like to see a budget amendment for that one as well.
Mrs. Dowdy.
I've heard some of the concerns and know that the questions have been asked, and some of the numbers are conservative, so that if we have extra money, we can look at other things that we can use the money for. But the questions have been asked on many of your questions that you asked tonight. So I feel comfortable with the budget the way it is, knowing that we can make several amendments in the new year.
Since you looked at me and pointed to me, can I?
No.
107,000 to 120. I mean,
Mr. Deinhardt, the gallery portion of citizen comment has been concluded. Council is now actively discussing this item. Mrs. Dowdy, please continue.
So I feel very comfortable with what we are approving tonight in the first reading.
Thank you. Anything further? Mr. Burke.
So, should we have a meeting next week?
It's up to council.
I suggest we should. Look at some of the stuff.
I don't think so.
But we did this last Monday and nobody talked about anything. We were here for like a half hour and nobody, well, Humane Society, but that wasn't, what, do you have, I mean, specifically, do you have something you want to talk about? And then I'm happy to leave work.
I already did bring it up many times. I brought it up, so, okay.
Mr. Smith?
Yeah, I mean, if there is something, I would like to hear. If there's something that you have concerns over, I would definitely like to hear. So, and I brought that up just now, and so, yeah. So if there's changes that need to be made, yeah, I would like to see them. Right now, we need a budget.
Yep.
So.
So.
Mrs. Holland?
So are we gonna have a workshop? I just kinda need to know how to plan my Monday workday.
Mr. Smith?
Yeah, last time we were here about 23 minutes and had very light discussion. I was the chair of that meeting. So I don't foresee it's going to change much at this point to have another 23-minute meeting. So I would opt not to. And again, we can make budget amendments. So this is a formality right now. When the new mayor takes over, we absolutely can make budget amendments when he goes through with staff and figures out which direction he wants to go.
Yeah, Mrs. Holland?
I just wanted to reiterate, because if you don't pass the budget, legally, nobody can spend money in the new year. If I read the RCW correctly, yes, nobody can spend a dime.
Mr. Boyce?
That's correct.
Mr. Burke.
Yeah, I thought that we've been into this situation before, and I believe you go to the year before's budget, plus the additions, the new additions.
And so I haven't.
It's happened once.
Okay, and I haven't been in a situation where we've had this issue. So if you'd like me to do some additional research, I will.
Thank you. Mr. Frymark.
You know, I don't think I've ever seen a budget that's perfect. And I'm as old as most people in here. A couple exceptions here. Having said that, the good news is we can amend it at any time. And frankly, I would like to take a closer look at some of those items. But I want to continue to run the services of the city without legal problems on it. We can't stop paying our bills. I am sympathetic, and I don't understand the budget as well as I would like to as of this moment. I will find out a lot more about it in the next few days. But I don't want to stop the city from operating and have a legal problem on our hands. We'll have many upset citizens if we go that route too far. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Frymark. Anything further?
I
Mr.
would
Hall.
just kind of reiterate that I think a meeting next week would be pointless, and I think we do need the budget. So let's get it done, get it in place. We can amend it later.
All right, I'm seeing consensus for no meeting next Monday. Further discussion on action item F. Seeing none, Ms. Hogan, please take the roll on ordinance number 1550, first reading.
Councilmember Dowdy,
Aye.
Councilmember Burke,
Aye, since it's first.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Frymark,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Moving on to action item G, ordinance number 1541, multifamily zoning, text amendment, final reading.
Motion to approve action item G,
Second.
ordinance 1541.
Moved by Councilmember Smith, second by Councilmember Rounds. Councilmember Smith.
We've discussed this a few meetings now. This is changing the zoning in regards to the potential of having an apartment complex or having an apartment complex of 293 homes or a small residential community of about 90 homes. It's not something that I'm thrilled about. It seems like it was kind of jammed down our throat, but I don't see much choice on that highway now at this point. And I don't think there's a ton of large multifamily properties that this affects too much at this moment.
Mrs. Rounds.
I agree with Mr. Smith. And also, this is that thing that we worked on for CRC, am I correct? Or is that?
No, that's something different.
That's something different. Okay. I agree with Mr. Smith.
Further discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Hogan, please take the roll on ordinance number 1541, multifamily zoning, text amendment, final reading.
Councilmember Burke,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Frymark,
Aye.
Councilmember Dowdy,
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Holland.
No.
The ayes have it, 6-1. Moving on to action item H, ordinance number 1548, marijuana retail sales zoning, text amendment, light industrial, first reading.
Motion to approve ordinance number 1548, action item H.
Motion on the floor to approve action item H, ordinance number 1548. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Smith, seconded by Councilmember Holland. Councilmember Smith.
I feel like this has been beat to death. We have heard from the community. I appreciate the comments about putting it on the ballot, and we could still put it on the ballot and change the zoning at a later date if we want to. But at this point, I don't see a need to push it down the road any further. I've heard from people who don't want it. I've heard from people who want it. And this is kind of the compromise, I think, that kind of meets the middle. That's where I'm at with it.
Councilmember Holland.
I would echo Councilmember Smith's comments. I think we were looped in the same emails many, many, many times from people. And I feel like the consensus amongst those emails were access, having accessibility. So this is still accessibility, just not in the zone people would prefer it to be in, I guess. Yeah.
That and there's no property there.
Sir, please. Further discussion. Mr. Burke. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I'll back.
If we approve this, does that open it up that we can sell marijuana? If we approve this?
It does open up for licensed retailers to open a shop within the next after 5 days of the effective date.
After the second reading. That's
Sorry,
only-
second
that's
reading.
only
Yes,
first
that's correct.
Mrs. Dowdy.
So, I brought it up many meetings ago that I really feel strongly that we need to have a vote. I still believe that we need to take it to the people and have a vote. I would like to still see it on the ballot come February. I know that we have gotten money and there was money that we could use for this, so I personally would still like it. And to talk about even which zone, if it does, I mean, not only yes or no, do we want it in Woodland, but even which zone. When the planning commission brings it to us and says, hey, we recommend this, and we're not listening to our planning commission, and we're trying to rezone it, and this can actually bring it closer to our schools than where it's currently located, I'm conflicted. So I've kind of stood my whole ground, even when in this re-election, that until we have a vote, I don't feel like I can say yes to this topic. I very strongly think that we need a vote in our town, not only on the zoning issue, but just in having it, period, in our town. So that's kind of where I stand right now.
Mr. Hall?
Yeah, I think a vote is not the way our government's set up. Obviously, we were elected to make decisions, and it falls on us to do that. And it's not the kind of thing where we bring every decision to the people and ask a vote. That would be a democracy. We are a republic, and we need to recognize that and take the responsibility. So I think a vote's nonsense. I also think it's expense that doesn't need to be spent. I'm not in favor of Woodland having any marijuana anywhere in the town. If it was up to me, I'd stop it completely. But I think we're talking about two different things. We have zoning, which we're talking about here, and we have licensing, which is a subsequent issue. Just because it's zoned a certain way doesn't mean that anyone can be licensed. There are still requirements to be met, as I understand it. And so I think the zoning is something that we should do to limit where this kind of activity can occur. I wish that we could limit it even further, so that we have just certain spots where it could actually happen. But if we're going to have, if
Mr. Johnson?
If we're going to have it,
please.
I think we have to have it in a zone where we can live with it and not affect our kids constantly seeing something that's going to lead them astray.
Further discussion? Mr. Frymark?
Thanks for bringing me on board for probably one of the most controversial subjects since this year that I've listened to both sides of the story here, and basically I agree with Councilmember Hall. I'm not crazy about liquor sales on the main drag either. I'm worried about normalization effects on our teenagers, our kids. I can personally vouch for some real negative effects on alcoholism and what I would call kids turn into potheads. It's a real problem in our society. I do not want a black market. I'm not sure we could effectively address that legal-wise. It didn't work during the Prohibition. It works less now than I would like it to. Our law enforcement have their hands tied significantly. How can we help them? You know, I see it. There's 4 options. Leave it where it's at, move it to the industrial light zone, move it far on the other side of the tracks, or not allow it at all in the city limits. We are, and I do agree with Council Member Hall, we are elected officials, and we should be good stewards to what's right for our community the best we possibly can in all things. I'm ready to make a decision on this myself. I wouldn't be particularly for putting it to a vote of the community in general, because the people I know, I've talked to a lot of folks, and I've got 70 years experience that I have made my mind up on a lot of things. And if I don't have a good opinion on it, I seek new data and listen to a lot of people. You know, the old adage about 2 ears and 1 mouth, listen twice as much. Well, I'd like to make that 20 to 1. You need to listen 20 times as much as you speak. You won't find me speaking very often. I like to listen a lot more. But when I do have a strong opinion, I like to express that. And I'm grateful for the folks that put me in this position up here to help represent the ones that voted for me and the ones who didn't. Please place close attention for me. My actions going forward, I'd want to earn your vote next time around. But on this particular agenda item, I'm ready to vote on it as is here and not dilly-dally around on it.
Thank you, Mr. Frymark. Mr. Smith.
I'm not anti-pot. I have friends who do it, some that are very successful, some not so much. I have friends that actually are in the pot business, and they are very successful at it. I personally don't do it. My job won't allow me to do it. I've never been anti-pot. Like I said, there's people that have done it around me since I was a teenager. It's not something I chose to ever do. All through this process, I've tried to find a common ground to where if I'm going to make a change to it, trying to put it in some place that the entire city can live with it. There's people who want it. I've said that before, and there's people who don't want it. So I'm trying to put it in an area that people can still get it, and maybe it'll appease the people who don't want it. Now, I know not everybody's going to agree with that, and I can't make everybody happy. So I live in this position of making everybody angry at this point, which means I'm trying to be in the middle, because if I've made everybody angry about it, nobody's getting exactly what they want. And that's where I sit up here trying to do something that not everybody's going to get exactly what they want. It's never been about the pot store that's there or was there. It's about trying to make the best choice for this city, for everybody who's came and talked to me about it. And that's why I'm willing to go to the industrial zone to where we can put it to bed. And if we do want to put it to a vote, we can go and put it to a vote after the new year. We can always bring that amendment to us. We can always do a budget amendment, and we can put it on a ballot. Once we figure out the costs, we can bring it to council, and we can see if we want to spend the money or not.
Mrs. Rounds.
Well, I've never been for pot either, but I'm like Mr. Hall, that if we have to have it, I think the industrial area is the place to put it. But if it was up to me, I wouldn't have it in Woodland at all, especially when they can go 4 miles up the road and get it at A&A. So.
All right. Seeing nothing else, Mrs. Hogan, please take the roll on action item H, ordinance number 1548, marijuana retail sales zoning text amendment, light industrial, first reading.
Councilmember Holland.
You did that on purpose, didn't you?
It's at random.
No.
Councilmember Dowdy.
No.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Frymark.
Aye.
Councilmember Hall.
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds.
Aye.
Councilmember Burke.
The ayes have it, 5-2. Moving on to resolution number 773, low-income utility rate discounts effective November 16th, 2023 billing.
Make a motion to approve resolution number 773, low-income utility discounts.
Moved by Councilmember Rounds, seconded by Councilmember Frymark. Councilmember Rounds.
We just needed to get something set up so that we would know exactly what the low-income rates would be so that it could be in effect.
Councilmember Frymark.
I'm in agreement with General Light Dip. We're talking a very small percentage of our citizens. Come on.
Oh, you gotta lean in too.
Gotta. All right. I'll have to get a habit of doing that.
That's okay. You get a pass.
Evidently, it's less than 1% of our population. It's a very small price to pay for additional help to the needy on here, and I'm all for it.
Further discussion?
So is this establishing the rates, or, sorry?
Sorry, no, Mr. Smith.
Is this establishing the rates, and it looks like it's increasing a little bit? Is that, maybe I'm reading this wrong?
Ms. Coleman?
So what I provided is what our current rates are that we're charging right now, which is from 2021 based on the utility rate study. The increase that was voted by council to go into effect in November was for the percent increases that are shown on here based on the council suggestions. So it does increase in November of 2023, and it has been put on the utility bills what that increase is going to be. It is a small increase.
Small increase.
This that you're talking about now, it has a small increase for low income as well, but it also allows us to give a discount to low income individuals.
So it's a small increase and allows the discount to happen?
That's correct.
And we did go through and do the low income change to
For
income
everybody,
levels.
instead of just seniors or disabled, it's for anybody who is low income. That's correct. We did change that. But remember, the rates are based on if everybody's rates go up, their rate goes up as well, but it just doesn't go up as much. It's based on a certain percentage.
Okay. I would like to possibly delay this and maybe have more of a conversation about our rates on our income levels to see if we want to increase that as well, kind of do both at the same time. If we're going to increase the income levels, that's just my opinion, but that's where I'm at with it.
Can I ask a question what he's talking about, the income levels?
As far as the
Qualifying income levels?
Yeah, the qualifying
We
income
already
levels.
increased that.
This year, or?
No, we increased it previously, and we increased
Yeah.
it to more than what the county average was.
Yeah, and that's what I want to reevaluate that too. We did it last year, and I just want to reevaluate it this year and just kind of go over it every year.
Okay.
Further discussion?
So if I could make a motion to table it until after the new year.
Moved by Councilmember Smith, second by Councilmember Burke to table action item I, resolution number 773, till, I need a more specific date.
When's our first meeting in, or let's go second meeting in January. It's probably going to be a crazy meeting, so.
Motion on the floor to postpone resolution number 773 by Councilmember Smith, second by Councilmember Burke to delay until the second meeting in January. Councilmember Smith.
I think I made my comments clear on why.
Councilmember Burke.
I feel the same.
Further discussion? Mrs. Holland?
No.
I felt something coming.
Yeah, it's a disturbance in the force. I'm sorry. I get a little agitated when we're trying to deprive folks who are already struggling with discounts, but okay.
Is this delaying the discounts? At this point, Ms. Coleman, is this delaying the discounts?
The discount is in effect based on what our water rates are. If you don't pass this, the entire billing cycle is going to be off because you
Okay.
have certain people who are low-income residents and you have certain that are not. If you raise the rates on one and you don't raise the rates on the other, you're going to have an offset. This is all based on the utility rate, and all of our rates were based on how much discount we can allow to our low income based on this matrix. So it all goes in a package together.
Okay.
So it will be a billing nightmare. It can be done, but I want you to be aware that it's going to be a billing nightmare if you don't approve this. And I'm not sure how we're going to be able to bill. If you don't approve one, you should do it all or none.
Okay.
So, and also the,
That's where I was at, was tabling all of these increases until
Yeah.
after the new year.
and then,
But I don't know where everybody else is at.
right. Well, I just want to explain to you how that works. And then also the dollar amount for the salary that you're talking about, that was all studied too based on the state average. So when you review that when you do your another utility rate study. So the utility rate study is coming to be due in a couple years. So since we just brought that up as of last year, my recommendation would be to bring it up 2 years from now when you redo your utility rate study, because these rates were only good for a 10-year plan anyway.
Yeah.
So you really need to see now that you're taking out your additional loans and stuff, and you need to see where your reserves are going to be and then determine at that time what you'd like to do. That's my opinion.
I'm going to kick to Mr. Randolph right now.
Yes, sir, I had a question. We had a motion to table it. Was that seconded?
Yes, by
So-
Mr. Burke.
Okay, and so that's what's voting?
That's what's being discussed right now,
Thank
yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Smith?
No, I see what you're saying. Me personally, I'd like to see it reviewed every year. Cost of living goes up every year, so I would like to see whether it needs to be increased by 3% cost of living or what. Social Security goes up a little bit every year, which might price people out. So that's why I say I would like to look at it again.
Yeah, when the utility rate study is done, it looks at the cost of living increases, and so that's what it's basing the rates on as well. So just so you know, that was taken in consideration. But to feasibly do this every single year is going to be a large cost if you want to do these studies every year. They usually do it on a 10-year cycle, and they take the cost of living increases into account. Now, you can, after 5 years, say, well, like, for instance, COVID happened. After 5 years, you say, I think we should relook at that because really the cost of living has increased, but then, inflation has gone up higher than we expected. So if you wanted to say, I think we should do the utility rate study next year and start down that path, that would be a good way to do it. But to pay for that study every single year wouldn't be cost effective
Yeah.
on the way they're normally done.
It was a very expensive study. Okay.
Further discussion? Mr. Hall?
Yeah, I don't want to kick it down the road. I think we should just decide to go with it. So I guess I'm recommending a no vote on the
Tabling.
The table.
tabling
Yeah.
motion. Yeah.
I agree. I agree.
Unless the motion wants to be drafted.
We can vote on the motion. I don't want to complicate it at this point.
Ms. Hogan, please take the roll to postpone Resolution 773 to the second meeting in January.
Councilmember Freimark,
Nay.
Councilmember Holland,
No.
Councilmember Burke, Councilmember Hall,
No.
Councilmember Dowdy,
No.
Councilmember Rounds,
No.
Councilmember Smith.
No.
The noes have it. Back to the original motion on the floor by Councilmember Rounds and seconded by Councilmember Frymark for the passage of action item I, resolution number 773. Further discussion?
I'm still under the stance of it's probably going to be a no on all of this, just since you were saying to simplify it. So,
Ms. Hogan, please take the roll on action item I, resolution number 773, low-income utility rate discounts effective November 16, 2023 billing.
Councilmember Burke.
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds.
Aye.
Councilmember Hall.
Aye.
Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
Councilmember Dowdy.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
no.
Councilmember Frymark.
The ayes have it, 6-1. Moving on to action item J, resolution number 774, stormwater rates effective November 16, 2023, December 2023 billing.
Motion to approve resolution number 774.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Dowdy, second by Councilmember Rounds. Councilmember Dowdy.
Yes, we talked about this today in our meeting, and it was basically because of COVID and not having a 2-year break on rates, we should have seen some different rate increases. And due to the hardships of all the expenses that everyone is incurring with food prices, gas prices, and everything else, they have looked and they are basing it at a percentage that will still make us able to pay our loans that we are currently taking out for those 2 major projects that we are having to pay back. We are not going to be able to be building in our reserve as much as what our study had, but this will still enable us to pay our loans that are getting our 2 really large projects done. As we're listening to the people who are like, enough's enough, this is kind of a reprieve and a meet in the middle ground so that we can still have these big projects done at the minimalist amount to the citizens. So I fully think that this is a good common ground for us to meet at.
Councilmember Rounds.
I concur with Mrs. Dowdy.
Further discussion? Mr. Burke.
What was the rates before the 465 kicks in? Couldn't find that in.
I think that's it right, well, that one says stormwater right there.
The rates that are right now are on the cover sheet on the staff note, and the new rates are on the resolution.
I couldn't, yeah.
I put them in charts on the staff note.
You can use your mouse to poke it. There you go.
So what is affecting the most is when you see the water. The water is what is being decreased the most out of all 3 of these.
Yeah, I just wanted to know
So.
$3, $4 or what.
Mr. Boyce, can you scroll up and then click the hyperlink so he can see it? So Councilmember Burke can see it?
And maybe I missed it, but
Just leads you.
Just scroll down, yeah. His doesn't have that.
That's just the resolution.
It's going from $4.65 to $4.65, and then next year to $4.82.
Further discussion?
no, I just got some more clarification on it. I thought this was increasing everything. That's why I was wanting to delay it. But it's delaying the 15% increase. So again, when new administration takes over, if they have some budgeting they think would make a difference and they want to
It's not delaying, it's taking it away.
change rates, taking the 15% away, yeah. So I have a better understanding of it now, so I apologize. Go ahead.
Ms. Hogan, please take the roll on action item J, resolution number 774, stormwater rates effective November 16, 2023, December 2023 billing.
Councilmember Dowdy.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Frymark.
Aye.
Councilmember Hall.
Aye.
Councilmember Burke.
Aye.
Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Moving on to action item K, resolution number 776, water rate increase effective November 16, 2023 for December 2023 billing.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Dowdy, second by Councilmember Rounds. Councilmember Dowdy.
Exactly what I just said.
Councilmember Rounds.
Agreed.
Further discussion? Mr. Frymark.
We as a city want good water. Without good water, I live in places that do not have good water or disposal. We don't want to. We don't want to skimp on water. I've lived in places that the water quality was not drinkable. And we need the resources downstream to maintain that. From what I've seen, it's fairly reasonable. We're in the middle price bracket of cities in our general area. I'm price conscious just like everybody. But if there's one thing we want to maintain and keep good in our community, it is water quality and the adequate disposal of the waste to go with that. So, like I say, I never like price increases. Sometimes we just have to man up, woman up, and accept that and hope for better down the road, because I like, unlike some folks, I don't think inflation is going to continue. We might have deflation. And if that's the case, then we need to look at it again in a not too distant future and cross that bridge when we get there.
Thank you, Mr. Frymark. Anything further? Mrs. Dowdy.
So just for clarification for everyone out there, that if we don't pass this, the 15.5% stays in effect instead of it being lowered to the new rate of 5.6%. So this is actually doing everybody a favor by lowering it, so. Okay.
Thank you. All right, Mrs. Hogan, please take the roll on resolution number, action item K, resolution number 776.
Councilmember Rounds.
Aye.
Councilmember Frymark.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Hall.
You say Holland or Hall?
Hall.
You.
Aye.
Councilmember Burke.
Aye.
Councilmember Dowdy.
Aye.
Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Moving on to action item L, ordinance number 1549, Climate Resiliency Comp Plan Chapter, first reading.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Hall, second by Councilmember Rounds. Councilmember Hall.
Yeah, this whole thing was looked at over a period of months, and the public was invited to multiple open houses, and we talked it through. This is a good program. One thing I really want to commend Travis on in this project was that we got away from the business of climate change, and we went to look instead at what we needed to do in case we do have climate events, and that's why the word resiliency comes in here. That was a very good move, and I appreciate it, and I think this is right for Woodland.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Councilmember Rounds.
And it protects us from the bigger climate change that could possibly come into effect also.
Further discussion, Mr. Smith.
This is what you walked through the other day. Am I correct, Mr. Goddard? Yeah, you you went through it pretty well, and I appreciated that. This is a first reading, so if people want to come back on the second reading and make some comments on it, I'd be interested to what people's take is also.
Mr. Frymark.
No, not make that mistake again.
You're good. You're on.
Okay. I'm not a climate fanatic particularly. I'm a bit of an amateur astronomer, and I realize that the solar output of the sun primarily controls our climate. Although, you know, carbon footprint is definitely impactful on it. But more important, I remember my days in Boy Scouts, and the motto of Boy Scouts is be prepared. And I think we need to be as prepared as possible for possible weather deviations that can affect us dramatically. It's again, is an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So I'm for this.
Thank you, Ms. Primer. Anything further? Seeing none, Ms. Hogan, please take the roll on action item L, ordinance number 1549, Climate Resiliency Comp Plan, chapter, first reading.
Councilmember Dowdy.
Aye.
Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
Councilmember Hall.
Aye.
Councilmember Burke.
Aye.
Councilmember Frymark.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds.
Aye.
The ayes have it. We've come to the end of our meeting.
Make a motion to end the
Second.
meeting.
Moved by Councilmember Round, second by Councilmember Dowdy. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The ayes have it. It is 8:30.
That was very quick.